go but you didn't know anything about the location? Today in this presentation, Dylan, Carl, and Andrew will help me introduce the culture of Morocco along with the country's values, communication challenges, language and conflict styles, and types of nonverbal communication. By the end of this video, you should be well informed about the culture of Morocco. We hope you enjoy. First, let's discuss cultural communication values within Morocco. Cultural communication deals with the reflection of how one culture interacts with another culture. For example, in Morocco, family is the most important thing in life and plays a major role in all social relations. Ethnocentrism plays a role in this as well. Culture is made up of many facets of life such as religion, politics, race, lifestyle, etc., with many subcultures forming a collective of larger cultures. Americans and Moroccans have a history of working with each other since the founding of the United States. As such, U.S. citizens are generally treated well by the American populace. Some challenges one may run into when interacting with a Moroccan, either in the States or in their country, may include a lack of direct interaction, negatively discussing the king or the current state of the country, or assuming that due to the Islamic predominance of the culture that Moroccans are aggressive, hostile, or possibly even terrorists. As such, one should avoid these topics, or at least step lightly when engaging their friends in discussion. Americans often purchase stuff on a whim, whereas Moroccans are more inclined to save their money for the good of their family. This is evidenced by the indulgence score on the Hofstede Insights. Shopping takes on an entirely different role between the culture. If a Moroccan is out shopping, they will usually barter for good prices on necessary items like food, fabric, and other day-to-day necessities. In other words, Moroccans tend to be more frugal in their purchasing, while Americans are typically more indulgent in their spending.
The Moroccan culture is ultimately centered around friendship and family. They will greet you with respect and kindness. And if by any chance you make friends with the locals, you may be invited to their home for dinner. Now, if invited, accept the invitation because it is one of the best ways to experience traditional Moroccan dishes. There are some traditions that should be kept in mind when entering Moroccan homes. First, it is polite to remove all shoes before entering the house. Second, Moroccans eat with their hands most of their meals. You should always eat with your right hand and not with your left, because the left is usually commonly used while you're on the toilet. Finally, it is a good idea to bring a gift like pastries or a live chicken or chickens. When in Morocco, don't plan on visiting any mosques. They are considered sacred ground and you must be a Muslim to enter. The closest you can get to visiting a mosque would be to visit the ruins of Tin Mal and Samar. It may be offensive to the Moroccans when taking pictures of them, so to be safe, ask for permission first, especially in rural areas. They're not used to the traffic of tourists. If you are with locals who are giving a tour, pictures will be welcome. They most likely will take you somewhere where they can get a picture with you. So take the pictures. In Morocco, souks are the marketplaces where you can buy food and souvenirs. Don't be afraid to bargain with the traders for better prices. The traders are good at haggling, so don't give up. Try to cut it down to half price. They will be hard to bargain with. Language. There are many different languages that are present in Morocco. The most common language is Dahari, which is a form of Arabic and has a mix of French and Spanish within. Traditional Arabic is spoken mostly in professional settings. Oh my gosh. The other language of professionalism and the one most likely to be used with foreigners is French. Other languages include Spanish, Tarifit, and the Moroccan Sign Language. English is present in Morocco, but it would be best to bring a book or have a phone for translation purposes. Now off to Andrew with the nonverbal communication guide.
Nonverbal communication is one of the more important aspects of a culture when traveling to a foreign country. mostly because saying a certain phrase or making certain actions may cause conflict due to the action or words being perceived as an offensive or contradictory to the social norms of their culture. Moroccan culture compared to the culture of the United States is very different, and it is important to understand the taboos and the appropriate things to do when socializing with Moroccan people. Morocco is a hierarchical society, which means that each person or group of people are ranked based on their own authority or own status. So, coming into Morocco as a tourist, it is important to understand that a certain respect that normally would not be expressed in American culture is expected to be shown to a person of authority or a different gender. This is because of the higher power distance in Moroccan culture that gives people the different statuses, different amounts of respect and authority. Hand gestures in Morocco are very common and are a major component to the way that they communicate to each other. Their culture relies a lot on these hand gestures and also expressions and the meanings that they have to convey to an individual. Haptics in nonverbal communication have to do with touch and how touch is used to assist communication. When it comes to haptics in Morocco, in greeting a male, it is very normal to shake their hand and to also give them a kiss on the cheek one time. This is different though when meeting a woman. If she offers you a handshake, then you can give her one back. But if this is not the case, then it is appropriate to bow or give a head nod to show a sign of respect. Typically, when two people of the same gender are having a conversation, there is a lot of touching between them. Proxemics is the concept of personal space and the amount of personal space different cultures feel comfortable with. The online journal article called Morocco Guide, a look into the Moroccan language, culture, and doing business, says that proxemics in Moroccan culture is generally to be about an arm's length away from each other. Although it is sometimes different when a woman is talking to a man, usually this would be a little long or a little more distance. The article also shows that oculesics in Morocco are different from American oculesics. Since it is a hierarchical society, people in lower social classes are typically not supposed to make direct eye contact with the people of a higher social class. This would be considered to be offensive or rude and could even cause a physical conflict. This is relevant to tourism because you want to make sure that when greeting people, you maintain the correct amount of space, gestures, and eye contact so you to avoid any of these conflicts. Physical appearance is also an important factor in nonverbal communication because of how you look will convey a message to the people around you and could possibly draw some unwanted attention. As a tourist, you're already in an unfamiliar area with different customs. The last thing you want to do is prove yourself vulnerable to anyone who might want to harm you. When in Morocco, generally men will be dressed up in plain t-shirts, plain shorts. For formal attire, this would be a suit and a tie. For women, modest clothing is the best thing to wear, since in Morocco it is predominantly a Muslim country and it is due to the religion. This religion prohibits provocative clothing in public. Another taboo thing to do, and that is in the Culture Crossing Guide, recommends is to not eat during Ramadan in public because it is considered especially rude in this culture. One more thing is to be respectful of the religion because the religion is taken very seriously. Be prepared for the diversity and the differences in culture, even though you might be expecting a little bit of culture shock. Now off to Carl. He will be talking on the topic of conflict resolution.
Morocco. One may wonder just what kind of country this nation is, or in some cases about the topography of the nation itself. Both valid questions in and of themselves, but today we will look at the culture of the nation. Morocco is a nation that has been through many conflicts and tribulations on the path to sovereignty. It was once under French, Spanish, and Muslim rule. It would not be a stretch to say that the nation has seen its share of conflicts. The Moroccan populace rates high on the uncertainty matrix on Hofstede Insights. This indicates that the Moroccan people have fear of the unknown and that they have come up with various ways to cope with uncertainty. Adopting the religion of Islam is one such coping method. Islam, in turn, is a structured religion which has a strict rule set indicating how an individual should live their life and interact with other members of society. Islam is also a religion that has a rich heritage of conflict resolution through dialogue rather than through physical conflict. Terrorism and other instances of aggression have changed the perspective of many who do not practice the religion, and even some of those who do. Hofstede Insights also indicates that the nation of Morocco is a nation with a high power distance, indicating a predisposition for structure. Power distance is a measure of roles in society. A high power distance reflects that there is a hierarchy in which members of society have different roles. The nation of Morocco has a king with a board of other elected policymakers. The form of government Morocco has is a parliamentary constitutional monarchy. The king has the final say, with the elected officials having lesser yet relevant roles in the government. The rest of society tends to follow the leadership of the ruling class and the religious officials. There are exceptions, such as those who are involved with the Al-Qaeda and ISIS, two radical groups who have influence in the Western Sahara conflict. In the years since 2013, the current king of Morocco, Mohammed VI of Morocco, has put policies in place to attempt to deal with the rebel insurgents. Policies, as of yet, have not been successful, and Morocco is presently being summoned by the United Nations in an attempt to settle the conflict via dialogue. It should be noted that Morocco is avoiding this summit. When it comes to conflict among the populace of Morocco, individual disputes are generally resolved by the individuals themselves. If an accord cannot be achieved, the wounded parties will take the issue to local leadership, typically village elders or religious officials. If it still may not be achieved or resolved, the wounded parties may seek a more influential arbiter, with the final destination being the king. Most conflicts will not make it to that level, however, as the populace typically doesn't seek conflict, but rather seek peace. The people of Morocco tend to follow the initial suggestion of someone who they perceive to be above them in status when engaging in discussions. This tendency leads them to often reserving their honest opinion. If one is trying to do business or convince a Moroccan citizen of backing an idea or policy, it would be wise to suggest an opinion or an idea, and then let them discuss the topic amongst themselves in which to garner their true opinion on the subject. This behavior indicates that the people of Morocco would rather avoid conflict in business, though their opinions may yet differ from those above them in social standing. As an American who is generally viewed in a higher power distance bracket than the average citizen, when trying to negotiate a business transaction, one would be wise to consider this behavior when making the deal. It is also worth noting that when purchasing items at markets in Morocco, one should engage in bartering for items. It is fairly common for prices to be inflated initially and for the transactions to whittle 50% off the initial price gradually over banter to achieve a fair trade. We appreciate you taking the time out of your day to view and review with us. It's been Dylan, Stephanie, Andrew, and myself. We hope you garnered something from this presentation.